So on the wall here we have some of our primary switchback diagrams, and the topic right now is knowing when to refer. Wherever we are, whether in the southern hemisphere or here or in Asia, the question always gets asked at some point in our culture shifting process within organizations is someone puts up their hand and says, I don't think I have the capacity to handle what's going to come in through my team. Like you're asking us to get really involved in people's lives. And I don't know, I might have the time, but I don't think I know how to do it. Like, isn't this a job for professionals? So let's see if we can walk through this in a way that sort of answers that. Is this for professionals or not? And the answer is yes and no. Because it's always complex, isn't it? So if you have a target that says, I want to develop a world-class team, at some point that team is going to have to get to know each other. So if your team just goes to professionals to sort out, their struggles and their challenges, does your team benefit from it? We have an example. We worked really intensely with the highest security police force in Canada. They're the ones that are so trained, and they take out the really bad guys. And there's 8 of them in the room. And they actually asked for more time. At first, one of them was so not sure what's going to happen with Switchback that he actually wore his combat gear to the first day. 40 pounds of gear. How about that as a towel, right? And so basically they gave us, once they saw this, and they're very sharp, super sharp people, once they saw this, they went, okay, we get it. So they said, we have available to us the best psychologists, the best psychiatrists that Canada can offer us, and yet we haven't been able to move X's yet in our brains. And yet we've witnessed in the last 3 days some profound, life-changing, transformational X's move. Why? Why did it work here? And why didn't it work? Because we're dedicated to debrief, and we're dedicated to sort this stuff out. It didn't work in the privacy of a psychologist's office. So we're not saying that it doesn't sometimes work, but that was just our client telling us some feedback. So the difference is that they were working together with each other as peers. And they had a level of accountability to each other that's very different than when you're in a confidential setting. I remember the moment that just stands out in my mind. There's one of the members had massive X in his brain. And it wasn't about doing his line of duty work, which to most of us would be traumatic. Like being undercover for 3 or 4 days in a swamp waiting for a shot, and then finally taking the shot, because that's how you maintain democracy sometimes, is you have to take the shot. That doesn't traumatize these professionals. What traumatized him was his leader changing the facts for political reasons. And it threw him into 3 years of deep, darkness in his brain. So after day 1, he phoned his wife, was out of town, and said, okay, tomorrow we get a chance to start processing some of the stored memories in our brain. And he said, I'm thinking of processing this one. And she said, the big kahuna? And he said, yes, the big kahuna. Then she said, are you willing to process any of the other X's? He says, yes, I am. And then she said, does that mean I'm getting my husband back? And he said, yes, you are. And then she said, hurry back home. I look forward to it. So in that case, referral wasn't actually appropriate, was it? What was appropriate? For them to close the door, in this case with an outside consultant, and sort it out. So sometimes it's that. And sometimes it is referral. But this is how you'll know. This is how you'll know. if you're in a place of leadership with your peers or with peers or subordinates, and it's your job to absorb some of the story so you can develop capacity, like through the three-lane process. If you lay awake at night and you start hamster wheeling on issues in the workplace related to people's personal lives and all the rest, that is the indicator that it's time to build the team bigger. Doesn't mean that you ditch your colleague for, let's say, an EFAP program. It just means you add another layer. This is a good diagram to describe it. So here's you and your colleague, and they're sorting out, let's say, something as innocent as a 12-year-old child that's losing their respect to their parents. But for that peer, it's actually really impacting their performance at work, it's impacting their health, it's impacting their life. They're trying to sort it out. And you're in that mix. You're talking to them about that. You're not taking an hour a day. You're taking like 5 minutes here, 3 minutes there, a little bit there, but you're tracking that storyline. So it looks innocent enough, but at nighttime you're like, oh, I can't get this out of my brain. It's interesting. So what it is, it may be mirroring one of your exes that hasn't been moved. Maybe actually mirroring an X that already lives in the front of your brain, but nevertheless, it's in that space. So that's just an indicator. So what do? You add another red circle to it. So if your organization has a peer support program, you add that level. If your organization has an EFAP program where you can go see a counselor, you suggest that move. And you just keep adding capacity to the team until you sleep at night again. And if you can do that, and if you can communicate that to the rest of the organization, that's kind of our litmus test to make sure that we're doing good, then your organization can, with great confidence, roll into the three-lane capacity with each other without worrying that you're stepping over the line. What we have found too, no matter where we go, is that people have a high level of common sense. They really do. I think we have to give ourselves more credit than we think at times. What I mean by that is this. We came across a situation, which is not terribly uncommon, where an individual had an ex that was child abuse that had never told anybody ever. That doesn't sound that crazy, does it? However, this model kind of exposes that, doesn't it? Because it says, do you have this ex? And in this case, she hadn't even told her husband, and she'd been married to him for 30 years. So what is she going to do? Do you know what she did, actually? Because we have common sense, she did this. This is her exact words. I remember them as if it was yesterday. She drew this diagram out. She said, I'm a little bit nervous right now. A lot of you have experienced me in my career as being a version of either here, big bill, or really nasty snowball thrower. In the last 2 days, 3 days, I kind of cracked the code. So what there is there's something in my childhood that I haven't processed out yet. I just want to let all of you know that that's now in the early steps of being processed. And first of all, I would like to apologize for my past behavior, because I see now how reactive it was. And I also like to elicit your support. I'm not going to be able to tell you more than that at this stage, and I may never tell you more than that, but just know that I'm on a journey of transformation. Now, if that had been a story in this room, are any of your brains like, oh, this is too much, we shouldn't be doing this at work? No, it's not. So do you see how human beings know how to package things in appropriate ways in the right setting in order to, still did remarkable work, didn't she? Because she saw it, she analyzed it, she understood it, and she acknowledged it, and she told people what the direction was that it was heading. Now, the question is, did her life change? 100%. So, baseline, people kind of know how to operate in this zone. People that don't know how to operate in their zone just need to be coached into what it means to be appropriate here. Some people don't have a PG-13 filter. So those people just need to be encouraged to bring it back a bit. Other people have too much of a filter, and they've grown up in a family system where somebody got burned once. And the burn was this: Yeah, I once told my work colleague this and this, and it got out to the whole organization. So kids, don't ever show anything to anybody outside this house. That's not an uncommon speech in some families, but is that front of the brain? Is that rational? Is that world class? So, to summarize, we have full confidence that organizations can manage the development of this process without it throwing people into like an upset condition. From time to time, you may feel overwhelmed by what is being told you or how people are actually trusting you with their information. You can always say, that's a bit too much information for me. But more importantly is to monitor it yourself, check it out whether you're renting space at nighttime and going round and around like a hamster wheel. If you are, you just need to add another ring. Ring, ring, ring. In my profession, in the past when I was a family therapist, I exercised the referral process all the time. So at times, it actually meant canceling my next 3 appointments, sitting in the room and phoning 911. Because that was the right call to make. I would much rather transfer my disrupted schedule to get the right people on the bus doing the right thing than not. And what in that case was someone was suicidal, and I said, are you willing and able to sign a suicide contract with me to say you will not take any action towards hurting yourself? And I say, I'm not willing to sign that. And I said, okay, let's give that another run at it. Are you willing to do, and they go, nope. I say, okay, hold on then. Our days just changed. You understand what I mean by that? Is that you and I are going to stick together until I can get you into an ambulance. Say, okay. It's not a bad price to save a life, is it? So that's available to any one of us at all times in normal democracies around the world. So be reassured, there's resources available. There's help on the way, and you're not alone.